Hi, Margot.
Hi, Jenna.
I'm so excited that you're here today, and I am so excited to introduce you for Autism Awareness Month. Everyone, this is Margot. Margot is an awareness advocate for Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome, and I am going to let her talk a little bit more about that.
Hi. Well, as Jenna said, my name is Margot. You can find me on TikTok at Margot's Gambit. I am an awareness advocate for my genetic condition, which is called Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome. And part of the reason I wanted to talk about that today is because there is a comorbidity between autism and Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. And I, in fact, did not find out I had either condition until I was an adult. So I'm hoping that by talking about this, here with Jenna today and also on my page on TikTok, that we can change that for, the next generation, because it's a condition that is definitely manageable, but the earlier you have interventions with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, the better outcomes you can have. So, for example, I'm a lifelong swimmer. That's a really great exercise for people with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome because the most common type of the syndrome involves hypermobility of your joints. So it allowed me to, through my whole life from the age of 3, really just do the best kind of exercise for me. Whereas the flexibility that comes with having this genetic condition lends toward, a lot of great athletic ability in gymnastics or figure skating, say, which that's not to say you can't necessarily do those sports, but you want to do them much more mindfully because you want to have good quality of life long term. You want to think about the long term, and when we're young, we definitely don't.
We have this idea that we are invincible until we're not.
Yep. Until your right foot just ain't what it used to be.
Literally, for me, it's my left. Okay, so on your TikTok, I saw that you had talked a little bit about hypermobility and bending and not breaking. Can you explain what that means a little bit of what Ehlers-Danlos syndrome looks like for you?
Absolutely. So for me, well, first of all, I'm 36 years old. I'm mentioning that as irrelevant to the condition. Some features of the condition, and I say condition because I used to say disorder, but that was a big bummer. Let's be honest. Especially since there is a lot that you can do. Like you don't have to. If you Google Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, you're gonna panic because it's all these comorbidities. But it's a lifestyle. It's pretty much it's lifestyle and other things. But anyhow, so at its core, what goes down at the cellular level with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, because it is an inherited condition, um, essentially it affects the production of my collagen, and collagen is the most abundant protein in the body. So it affects kind of every organ system, which is why I have, for me personally, a plant-based diet, for example, because it helps keep my inflammation down and I just feel better. And it helps with like pain. There's some chronic pain, but again, manageable. Um, but so the greatest feature that you see, even going into adulthood for many of us, especially if you keep up with things like yoga, which I have. I'm one of those hippies. I'm a hippie.
Love it.
Where was I? Oh, yes, yoga. So is a great deal of flexibility. And so what you were mentioning, the bending, not breaking, I have for my whole life constantly been, spraining my wrist or turning an ankle, just constantly, my right ankle all the time, over and over again, which is how it's kind of gotten to where it is, which I'm rehabbing at the moment. It's going pretty well, but again, I bring it up because I turned it day before yesterday, and I'm still icing and resting all of that. So I have never experienced personally a broken bone. Every time I've ever gotten injured, it's because I'm too flexible. So for example, like to not show you anything that's too weird, like I'm extra bendy with my fingers. Yeah. So, and then like for example, my elbow.
You're so awesome. Thank you for showing.
My elbow is
okay.
hyperextends. So
Yes, it does.
And so like my shoulder will just low key hyperextend or even dislocate, and then it just kind of pops right back in, and you still have an injury that you definitely need to rest and recover from. But because my injuries kind of like, they're not obvious, I look fine on the outside. That's the thing of it, is I look healthy. And I am healthy in a lot of ways, but I am disabled, and I do have a chronic condition to manage. And so I've learned from other people on TikTok that it's really great to thrive within your limits, you know?
We can be our healthiest selves and our best selves, and us listening to our bodies and what our bodies need.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for explaining that. I really think that it's a topic that more people are going to realize is, you know, maybe a lifestyle that they are existing in without having that word. And
absolutely. And disabled is not a bad word. I absolutely identify as someone who is disabled. And one of my really great inspirations who kind of like helped me to get where I am right now is the activist and actor Jamila Jamail, who is going to be playing She-Hulk in Marvel Cinematic Universe. She has Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome, and before I even knew I had Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome, I heard from her, and also on YouTube, Jessica Kellgren-Fosgard. Those were the two individuals who I heard about this condition from first, because it is considered a rare condition, a rare disorder. But I think too, that's also because it's very much underdiagnosed.
Yeah. So interesting. Is Jamila Jamail in The Good Place?
Yes, she plays Tahani.
Yes,
she's my favorite.
Yeah, I love her. I love her. It's a great show. It's a really great
fantastic
show. Yeah, it really is. Okay,
so do you have any other questions for me? Because I can just go on and on, I'll tell you.
Okay, I honestly have so many questions, and so I am going to, maybe we could have another conversation and we could keep this going, because I have so many questions. I feel myself processing on this information, and something that immediately jumps to my mind is in the early psychology textbooks from like, you know, early 1900s, they talk a lot about autistics having wavy flexibility, this sort of like unnatural flexibility. And so I want to go back to my texts and read up on that information and cross-reference that a little bit with you to see if that was examples of us in, or examples of Ehlers-Danlos syndrome in the textbooks, but they weren't.
Absolutely. And I would love to go over like I can give you like the diagnostic criteria, I can give you like the nitty gritty, but I can also just one-on-one tell you like, here are what the features are, here are common things, and a term that you may want to look into more in paralleling with what you're already going to research is, I think we've talked about before, neuroqueer. It's NEUROQUEER, and it talks about it. You'll read about it, but we can discuss. But yeah, I'd absolutely love to get like, we can do like a recorded conversation. We can do like just a low key discussion and then like do another interview.
I would love to. Okay, so for listeners, give me a 2-sentence or one word, however you want to describe it. Define neuroqueer for us.
Neuroqueer is the intersection of autistic identities, neurodivergent identities, with those who are more on, I would say, the gender fluid spectrum. So for me, I identify as neuroqueer because I was assigned female at birth, which, you know, not that matters. However, I am, as an adult, identify as a non-binary bisexual person. And a lot of that comes from just really questioning gender and gender roles my whole life. That was not one sentence. But that would be, yeah. So
that's perfect. Thank you. I think that was perfect.
And I would say also, one thing on TikTok that I have noticed, is the trend, the gesture that we have taken back. This is a sign of hypermobility. The limp wrist is a sign of hypermobility. So I just wanted to add that in there, that every time I see that, like most of my For You page, I'm like, I think all these people have undiagnosed Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, but how do I say that casually without?
Oh, you crushed it.
You can't do it. You can't do it. So I just try to be visible and aware, and sounds like, hey, that sounds like me. Well, that's how I ended up here. So
I really, you're inspiring and just wonderful. I'm so enjoying this conversation. Okay, so I have 4 questions for you.
Okay.
And no wrong answers. I just am so curious and excited to showcase the unique ways that autistics think, that we really can't be put into a single box. And so my first question, when you think, is it a constant stream of thought? Does it ever pause?
Oh gosh. It never pauses. And I would say that it overlaps in a very particular way. I was in chorus and choir since I was a little kid, like in kindercare, and like I went to this like preschool called kindercare, and then I
went to kindergarten in 6th grade.
Yep. So from those, when I started school up until like high school, until I switched to theater, which led to musical theater, I did music. So songs where you have the overlapping, you have the round robin. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like that in my head. So it's like, row, row, row your boat, row, row, row your boat. And it keeps going and then it overlaps. So it's very musical in a lot of ways. So sometimes it's speech, sometimes it turns into echolalia. And so it'll be little snippets of songs overlapped with, like, say, a jingle from a commercial, or a catchphrase, or just like a thing that my group of friends have said a million times. That's an inside joke. It's like that. So it doesn't really ever get quiet, and it makes it tough to fall asleep at night because there's a lot going on.
Yes. Well explained. And echolalia, just for anybody listening, echolalia is a reproduction of a sound that you hear. So music may be playing in your head, or hearing maybe sometimes I'll like hear a door slam, or somebody will close the fridge and I have to clap to sort of like to counteract the sound with a sound.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah. So when you think, is it back to back to back or multiple thoughts at once?
Back to back to back.
Cool. Okay. And then when you read silently, do you hear the words, or how do you know you've read what you've read?
I hear the words, like as if I'm reading out loud. I hear them in my head. Same. And I also am sort of in like my mind's eye, as it were, envisioning what I'm reading in the story. I'm sitting in the movie theater and I'm watching it. And I also often, pretty much all the time, if I'm reading, I'm also listening to music, because I like to add a soundtrack. It helps with the immersion.
Yes, the way you just put that. Whenever I hear songs that I like read to, it is the soundtrack behind the scene that I'm imagining while reading it. And that helps me with textbooks.
Yes.
That helps me with school. That helps me with pleasure reading. Yes. Oh, I love to hear that. In 1926, Carl Abrahams. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
In 1926, Carl Abrahams wrote a book, and he had a chapter in it called Hysterical Dream States. And it was for people who could produce mental imagery for entertainment. And that's what we do when we read. We're producing mental imagery for entertainment, but it's sort of pathologized and sounds in a way that, is almost not believed. But so many people are experiencing it, they can't discount it and say it doesn't exist, when it's constantly being reflected in the literature, even if it was, historically disbelieved, if we can show it happening over the last 100 years and being in textbooks, it's not like I met up with Eugene Bleuler in 1910 and said, oh, you read this? Oh, I can do that too. There's so much time in between.
Exactly.
Yes. Okay, so 4th question. Does the number 4 have a color in your head?
Purple.
Oh. Cool. Does 4 get along with 7?
I haven't, I don't know. I'll get back to you on that one. I can tell you that I'm a fan of multiples of 2 and multiples of 4. 7, I'm not such a big fan of.
7 is quite shy. I really like 4, and I also like multiples of 4. I really find that I like odd numbers better, but I like the number 4. It's my lucky number.
Oh, I'm sorry. I meant, yeah, I like 4 because it's purple, but multiples of 2 and multiples of 5. Those are my. I
don't get along with 5 at all. I don't get along with 5. No.
So I have to say, lately, 12 keeps being 12 pops up multiple times a day. I don't know what the deal with 12 is, but
I like 12.
Something significant with 12.
Well, I'm excited to hear back on what 12 is trying to send you a message about. You'll have to keep me updated.
Absolutely.
Margot, thank you so much for today and for sharing your time and your energy. And I'm so excited to continue this conversation, and I really thank you.
Absolutely. I look forward to it. And I'll be in touch. You'll be in touch. That's gonna be great. And good luck with the rest of your interviews. I know you're gonna do great.
Thank you. And everyone, Margot can be found at Margot's Gambit. See the captions on TikTok. And honestly, I look to her page for information, for humor. It really is, a highlight whenever I see it. So Margot, thank you.
Bye, Jenna.